So once again, hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. For some of us, we gathered here on Wednesday night for a Wednesday service where I touched on a few points about gratitude that I'll elaborate on today. But we got to hear people come forward and make their proclamations of gratitude. So the sanctuary has already been filled up with lots of gratitude energy, and I hope you're feeling it today. You know, it's interesting because this holiday is not a religious holiday per se, and yet it is based on a very, very profound spiritual principle that gratitude is an important part of our spiritual practice. The Christian mystic Meister Eckhart, who lived in the 13th century, stated that if the only prayer you ever say in your entire life is thank you, it will be enough. And Ralph Waldo Emerson, who had a tremendous effect on our founder of our denomination, Ernest Holmes, stated that we should cultivate the habit of being grateful for everything that comes to us and to give thanks continuously. And one of my favorite reminders about the power of gratitude was years ago when I took a yoga class at UCLA, when I was a student at UCLA back in the days. And, and it was about the yoga philosophy. And I'm sorry, I know some of you have heard this story before. I cannot share it without doing my best impersonation that I can because it was so charming. But the yogi reminded us, one should be grateful to God at least 11 times per minute, because on average, we all breathe 11 times per minute. And your lovely house, and your beautiful wife and children, and all your material possessions become a big joke if you stop breathing. He had a point. Now, imagine for a moment if you felt a sense of gratitude every time you took a breath. How empowering that would feel. How much more positive our lives would feel. Why? Well, you know, the most fundamental tenet of our teaching of science of mind is that God is fully and equally present in every moment, in every situation, in every being, including each and every one of us. And that part of that God nature in us is free will. So we've been created with free will to discover our divine nature for ourselves. And so the more we perceive that goodness within us, that nature of God within us and around us, the more we call it forth into expression, the more we experience it in our lives. And what do we say is the core nature of God? God is synonymous with what? Love, right? So God's nature, love's nature, if we think about it, is one of giving and receiving. Okay, the principle of love is about putting something out and also taking in and celebrating. As our founder Ernest Holmes said, Spirit's nature is to give of itself unto itself incessantly. And gratitude really is an energy of love. Now, to be grateful, we have to be able to take something in, accept it, and then put out the energy of love and appreciation for it. We can't feel gratitude without feeling love, which is connecting and awakening to our divine nature. And another tenet of our teaching is that the greatest power we have is with our thoughts, our thinking, that the predominant tendencies of our thoughts shape our life experiences. Now, in case you hadn't noticed, if you look in your bulletin, my talk title comprises two words, in gratitude, which I would say when you look at that, hopefully you assumed I was talking about being in a state of gratitude, because that's what that's about. But isn't it interesting the power of a little space Because just take that space out of there, and then we have a single word, ingratitude. Not the same thing, is it? Pretty big difference between being in a state of gratitude or ingratitude. And what's the difference? What's the difference between the two? The tendencies of our thought to recognize all the good at any given time that's in our lives, that would be the state of gratitude. Or we can go the other way and look at what's not working, what seems to be lacking, and put a lot of attention there. And as we do, what do we experience? We experience a lot of negativity, right? The more we focus on lack, the more we experience lack. The more we focus on what's good, the more we experience good. When we are feeling grateful, we're recognizing what's good in and around us. And we're rejoicing in it, and that's an energy that opens us up, right? When we're feeling good, aren't we that much more open to giving and receiving goodness? Whatever it is, we're in that flow of life where we want to share and we want to continue to take in, and we're much more open to the possibilities that life holds for us. When we feel ungrateful and we're focused on lack, we feel it's a constricting energy. It's something that shuts us off. Author Roy Bennett, who wrote The Light in the Heart, stated, "Be grateful for what you already have while you pursue your goals." If you aren't grateful for what you already have, what makes you think you'll be happy with more? Right? Because when we get to the more, there's more to have beyond that. So we'll always be focused on what could be versus what is. And Thomas Merton, the mystic, tells us that gratitude takes nothing for granted, is never unresponsive, is constantly awakening to new wonder and to praise of the goodness of God. Oh, isn't that sweet? Wouldn't it be nice to be there? Well, one of the ways that we get there and that we promote over and over again is a gratitude journal. As Diane sang just now, what we always teach that one of the best times to engage in this conscious gratitude is at nighttime, to fill our consciousness with that sense of gratitude, that sense of aligning with love and appreciation of goodness and really feeling that before we go to sleep. That's a great time to do that. But, there's so many other gratitude practices. Just being very conscious when you say thank you to someone for something. Be really conscious of the exchange of love. In our abundance classes, we encourage people, every time you write a check when you're paying a bill, write "Thank you, God" in the memo, or TYG, because you are getting to show your appreciation for those who provided you with a service, and you can feel grateful for your ability to do it. And it doesn't mean that we can't admit to the negative conditions and experiences in the world, but when our minds are inherently oriented toward seeing the immensity of good, how much good there is, then we're poised to see the ways to make good of where there is a challenge or where there is a problem. If our minds are oriented to every time I breathe, this miracle of life happens in me, we're filled up. We have a sense of something that's so much greater than any challenge we encounter. Now, one of my favorite sayings that you will hear in this teaching is, don't tell God how big your problem is. Tell your problem how big God is. When we are in a state of gratitude for seeing how much goodness, no matter what's going on, the trees are still growing, nature is still unfolding, the planets seem to still be in order, my body is still doing what it needs to do every time I eat, and when I move around and all of that, there's so much good. I now feel that I can deal. There's something in me that can deal with the difficulties that come my way. And there's another dimension of gratitude that I'd like us to consider that I touched on Wednesday. And that's the fact that, we give gratitude in our gratitude journals. I think we're very accustomed to giving thanks for so many of the worldly things that are in our lives. So just be aware how much good there is. You know, I'm worrying about this problem, but look, I still have a home to come home to. I have a comfortable bed. I have my health. I have enough money to do whatever I need to do here. I have this, I have that. Look at how much. I have friends. But the challenge with that is that if we're always looking to feel grateful for the things that are in our lives and the conditions of our health or whatever, we can fall into the mindset that gratitude is dependent on things in the world, right? Like, we can't feel grateful if our health isn't in order right now, if things are not going well. I can feel grateful when there's money in my account. I can feel grateful when my relationships are in order. How often do we allow ourselves to simply feel grateful for God's goodness in us, just for the fact that there's a capacity in us to love, to experience joy, beauty, wholeness, abundance? How often do we give gratitude to God, being grateful to God just simply for God's nature in us? Because when we cultivate a sense of that, we can be grateful, we can stay connected with love no matter what's going on in our lives, no matter what's going on in the world. Yeah, I remember reading about a woman who, just loved gardening. She says, I swear, I don't hear voices, but I feel like my rose bushes talk to me. And she says, I've really learned a lesson from them because, when the littlest ones are first popping out through the soil, I can just hear them going, I'm coming forward, I'm coming to life. And all the other bushes that are fully grown are going, yeah, come on, little one. And the ones that are in full bloom are standing there going, I'm salmon, and I emit salmon or red or yellow to the world and fragrance. And yeah, I got a few leaves that aren't quite right, but I'm awesome. And even when they're dying and withering away, they're going, I get to give back to the earth. I get to participate in creating new life. Don't you think that's what God wants to experience through each and every one of us? Even if we're not fully evolved, the more we feel the essence of God's goodness in us as greater than our worldly conditions, our mistakes, the ways we haven't shown up at our best, when we feel something in us that's bigger than that, we can live in that state of gratitude and be open to ways to make good of things that aren't going well. And I know it seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? It seems counterintuitive to try and sit down and feel grateful in the midst of negative circumstances. But without the sense of gratitude for being who we are, for the ways God expresses through us, we'll constantly be looking for the world out there to make us feel good. Other people showing their appreciation for us. Things being in a certain way in our relationships, or things that we have to feel like or look like or whatever to feel good. And that's the importance of including in our gratitude practice just a gratitude for the sheer ability to feel love, to express and experience beauty, to know the feeling of abundance. Years ago, I read a story about a girl who was in Auschwitz. She was interned in the concentration camp as a child. All of her immediate family died, except I believe it was her little sister that survived with her. And she became her little sister's guardian. So, that's probably facing the worst ever in human behavior, right? I don't think we could think of a more negative circumstance to be in, but to be in a concentration camp like that. And she said, though, as she made it her mission to take care of this little girl and to see her through each day, she said, every day as they made it through yet another day, and they did survive to the end of the war, she said, I felt joy. I felt happiness. I felt something so wonderful in the midst of all this horror. Now, it didn't mean that she wasn't horrified by things she was seeing. It didn't mean she didn't feel fear or rage at some of the things that were going on. But like many people who have faced really, really difficult human circumstances, she was a witness to the fact, I got to know there's something in me that is love, that is goodness, that nobody can take away from me, even if they were to destroy me physically. I had a feeling of that something. Isn't that what we all want to get to? Isn't that what would give us that great sense of peace and well-being, no matter what? You know, as we moved into the season, I think many of us couldn't help but thinking of our beloved Jan Eddy, that so many of you knew, who has been a volunteer here. It was around this time of year last year that he was preparing to leave his body temple. And one of the things I remember about Jan is that Jan liked himself. Jan knew there was goodness in himself to share no matter what. And that was such an engaging energy to be in. You know, and it wasn't arrogance, quite the opposite. He was a very humble human being. He didn't walk around feeling like he was perfect, but he knew there was something good that he could share. And even as his body temple was breaking down, we were still wanting to go and spend time with him because he could still love. He could still share laughter. Now, I remember a woman telling me, a woman who was dying of cancer, it was 4 days before she made her transition, that she said to me, I have never felt wholeness and well-being like I do now. Because despite what's happening in my body temple, I've been able to express gratitude to people in my life. I've been able to ask for forgiveness for things that I didn't do well. I've been able to forgive. All of that. I get that we are not our conditions. We can be grateful every moment. You know, so I think it's really important for us to realize there will always be things for us to strive for, always be ways for us to show up in a more loving, more generous, more collaborative way in life. There will always be things, parts of God's nature. It's infinite, so there will always be a next level for us to aspire to. But I think we need to be aware, if we go back to that quote, of if you aren't grateful for what you already have, what makes you think you'll be happy with more? We need to be grateful for God's nature in us. And even when we see those areas that we can improve, if we feel that goodness, then it's like taking inventory and realizing, oh, yeah, but there's so much good in me, I'll be able to make good of that. In difficulties, I know, as we said, it's hard to feel grateful. But I want to share, as I close, I want to share that someone called me this week, and it was on Wednesday, and I don't know if she comes to the church or not, but she did say, I know you guys teach about gratitude, and I just want to talk to you about, it's really hard for me to feel grateful right now. She said, right now, my family that always comes together for Thanksgiving, we are on so many different sides and feel so passionately on these different sides about this election. She said, we feel so divided, and we've decided we can't get together or it's going to be a heated argument. We just can't do it this year. And it's so hard to feel grateful. And so I sat with that energy with her, and I said to her, okay. I said, I understand. I said, it hurts to know that this situation has caused such a sense of dividedness, doesn't it? And she said, yes. I said, but you know, the way I'm looking at this, because I'm not happy to see what has happened in this country, but I so get that this is an opportunity for healing. I said, can you appreciate that part of you that is seeking greater respect, greater understanding, greater collaboration, coming together? Can you accept that part of you that wants to see this situation in your family healed? And she said, yes. I said, see, that's the greater good? Can you at least be appreciative for that part of you that will help you find your way into the solution if you stay aligned with it? Can you feel grateful for that? And I could just feel the energy shift over the phone as we came into an agreement that that's where we wanted to put our attention. Where were we putting our attention of gratitude? We were being grateful to that essence of God in us. So I'd like to close by telling you on behalf of Reverend Nadine, Dr. Mark, myself, I'd like to say thank you to our staff members, Terry and Darlene, to every volunteer that comes here, to all our practitioners that make this community so amazing, and to all of you for making this community what it is. And our wish for you is for you to feel how appreciated you are, but most of all, for you to have a sense of appreciation for the blessing that you are, not just to us, but I'm sure to so many people in the world. So as I express that gratitude, I'm going to ask you, please breathe in, feel that energy of good, breathe out. Doesn't that feel good? And we get to do that 11 times per minute. Isn't that worth feeling grateful for? Let's pray. So just feeling that love and just taking it in and knowing that that is the love of that one life, that one power, that one infinite invisible that I call God, that is the one out of which everything is created, that lives and moves and has its being in, through, and as all that is. In, through, and as me, in, through, and as each person here, every being everywhere. And I just take this moment right now to be aware how no matter what's going on in any area of our lives, anything that feels challenging, anything that we're looking out there in the world that looks like discord, dis-ease, lack of any kind, there is still an essence of love, of wholeness, of abundance, of joy that lives in every part of the universe that is there to be revealed. And so let us know this together, that there is a goodness that is greater than any human challenge or difficulty that we encounter. And let us know that for our families, for our loved ones, for situations in the world that call to our attention. Let us know for anyone that's coming here today that is feeling empty, and just put out that love. And if you're feeling that way, take it in. Know it's always there. There's a part of you that can receive it and rejoice in it. And just give thanks. We bless our church. We bless all churches everywhere, synagogues, temples, mosques, ashrams, all paths to God. And with a full and grateful, ever so grateful heart, I release this word, knowing it is so, I let it be, and so it is. And together we say, Amen.